We are live. So we are here with my very, very special guest, Kimberly Austin. Couldn't be more honored to have her here. So since 2002, Kimberly's represented over 600 families with a career volume of more than $300 million in residential sales. So she's been, every award you can imagine, number one real estate agent, number one. I mean, there's nothing that she hasn't won yet. So we're really excited for her. Are excited to have her here with us. She's going to be talking to all of us today about how to build a successful farm and how to nurture that farm, how to utilize direct mail at a very high level, how to build great relationships by doing things inside the community that helps really make that farm respond at a much higher level. We're also going to ask her a couple of questions about, hey, what did you learn that didn't go right? What can we learn from, so maybe we don't have to hopefully face that same thing when it comes up. So without further ado, Kimberly, thank you so much for joining us. Kimberly, tell me a little bit about your real estate journey and how you got to be the top producer you are today.
Well, first of all, Brendan, thank you so very much for having me on your talk show. I actually kind of feel special, so thank you.
Absolutely.
I will say that it has been an interesting journey. I don't think I ever grew up and said, hey, I think I'm going to go out and be a realtor today. Or when I grow up, I'm going to be a realtor. Actually, it was the opposite. When I was growing up, I thought I wanted to be an attorney. And I guess that didn't work out for me. I got a management degree and decided I wanted to be some kind of entrepreneur. I wasn't exactly sure. I went to school full time. I worked full time. And while I was working, I worked at a hospital where I did their marketing for them. So I was a marketing coordinator for a hospital, and I learned a lot about marketing all the while I was getting a management degree. Sometime in the late 1990s, my husband moved from Colorado over to Chicago, and I found a company where I got into finance. I actually negotiated contracts for a living. And the finance piece wasn't exactly fun. But today, negotiating contracts is one of the biggest things that I do in a business. And who would have ever thought that that little job that I was working for an international juice box company was something that I'd be doing. Lo and behold, we moved back to Colorado. We outgrew our home and we put our house on the market. And it was a little challenging, I got to say. As a person who's in their later 20s, I relied on a professional to help me. And that professional told me my house was worth a little bit less than what I thought it was worth. And at the end of the day, she listed it at my price, and the home sold in one day. At that moment, I thought I should get my license. And so here I am 19 years later, a real estate agent.
I love it. I love it. So yeah, we never have any idea like how the journey is going to get us here. I've heard on this podcast every different way: teachers, healthcare, police officers. The most interesting roles can all lead to having a successful real estate career. So one of the things that we really wanted to discuss today, and again, we want to make sure we're bringing as much value to our audience as we can, is how you've really built a very successful real estate farm and how that started. Let's start out with, so what is the area that you currently farm? How many doors are we covering, and what does that look like?
Sure, thank you. Right now I am farming an area called Central Park. It was formerly known as Stapleton. It used to be an airport. They ended up getting rid of the airport and moving it further east, and that land was designated for residential homes and commercial space to some degree. And when I moved back from out of state into Colorado, we moved right into Stapleton. It was 2008, and I decided I was going to start becoming a realtor in the area that I lived. So if anybody out there is thinking about doing a farm, always start with the farm with where you live. And so that's exactly what I did.
I love it. So first, so key point number one, always start with where you live or as close to as you possibly can. And why do you think, I mean, do you think you could have done it without? Because I get a lot of people going, "Hey, look, Brendan, like I'm renting a house right now. I don't even own a home. So, and where I live, my neighbors are sketchy. Like, could you have done it without living there?"
Of course, I think when you're starting a farm, one of the biggest things that is important in getting started is making sure that the neighborhood does have turnover. So take a look at your MLS, see what areas are moving and what areas aren't moving, because if an area is not moving and you're farming it, it may be very challenging to make any sales. So if nobody's moving, there are no sales to be made, and it's going to be a little more challenging for you.
No, absolutely. And to establish turnover rate, all we're going to do, right, Kimberly, and you know this, is we're going to go back 12 months. We're going to see how many homes sold in that neighborhood versus how many active homes are active, or how many active homes are in that neighborhood. So let's say that there was 1,000 homes in that neighborhood and 10 sold in the past year. Well, then we would know that there was about a 10% turnover rate in that area. Actually, it's not 10%, that'd be 5%. If it was 100 homes, it'd be 10%. But you can kind of get the math of what we're talking about there. So it's amount of homes divided by how many homes sold in that last 12-month period. Perfect.
100% correct. One of the reasons that I started working my own community is I had just moved there. I really didn't know anybody. I really wanted to learn who the people were in the community, who were my neighbors. And so I actually started off door knocking. I went door to door to introduce myself and to let people know that I was new in the neighborhood and try to find some commonality. And it's interesting when you knock on doors, obviously it's a little more challenging with COVID, but when I started knocking on doors back in 2008, when I moved into the community, it was really in 2008, there weren't a lot of homes that were selling as quickly as they are today. So inventory stood on the market a little bit longer, but I was in the community and wanting to learn who my neighbors were, because I also knew that there was a high propensity for me to sell their homes.
Gotcha. And that first time door knocking, and I know we can talk about COVID right now, and you can and cannot do this. I know agents that are out there door knocking every day during COVID. I mean, that's a fact. So let's go back to that first door knocking experience. Were you scared? How did you get past it? When you walked up to that first door and you were like, oh boy, because I remember the first time I went door knocking and I was terrified, right? Terrified. So talk to me. What did you go with somebody? Were you solo? Like what was that first experience? You
So
never forget your first.
the very first experience I had was actually in Southern California, because that's where I learned how to farm. And I was like one of the desperate housewives on that famous show. I actually bought a big pumpkin. It was around Thanksgiving time. I went on to the MLS and I typed in all the information to see who was expired. And there was a home that was expired, that was for sale, and then it just didn't sell. So it went into the expired area. And it turns out that the home was $2.3 million. So I thought, that's the one I'm going to target. So I got a big pumpkin. I put my business card on it. I parked outside the house. I walked up this huge driveway. It was a really beautiful home. And I got up there, I rang the doorbell, and I just saw a sign that said no soliciting.
Mm,
I
mm.
was like, do I jump in the bushes? Do I
Oh.
run? So I decided I wasn't going to wait and solicit the lady, and I chickened out and ran back to my car. And at the
And that's
time,
okay, right? And that's okay. No one knows. You know what I mean? Like I always tell people, if you make your first cold call and you blow it, just hang up, right? If you make your first door knock and you screw it up, run away. Just run. No one's going to chase after you, right? So, all right. So you got
so,
past that one. How'd you get to? So what happened on the next door?
so what happened was I took the pumpkin back to my managing broker at the time, and I stuck the pumpkin on his desk. I'm like, this door knocking stuff isn't working. What happened? Well, I walked up to the door, rang the doorbell, only to see the no soliciting signs. And he said, Kimberly, you're not soliciting. I was like, whoa, what do you mean I'm not soliciting? Of course I am. He's like, no, you're not. You're making friends, right? You don't know anybody. Go back
Hmm.
there, take that pumpkin and make friends with this person that lives there. It's like, oh gosh.
Wow. So that paradigm shift of I'm trying to sell you stuff or get you to sell your house with me to, hey, I'm new here. I'm cool, you're cool. Just wanted to introduce myself. By the way, I'm an agent. What do you do? So talk. What was there a script that you found that worked better, or you were just like, hey, I'm Kimberly. Here's a pumpkin.
Thank you. That's a good question, because a lot of people do get into their own brains that it's challenging to have that conversation. And so I did take it for heart what was told to me. I took the pumpkin back. I went back at a little bit of a later time so that they'd give them a chance to get home. And I walked up with the pumpkin. I rang the doorbell, and the sweet little, I mean, she was short, lady opened the door, and I said, hi, I'm Kimberly Austin, and I live right over there. And I pointed in the air in the direction. And I said, and I'm new here and I don't know very many people. So I thought I'd bring you a pumpkin so we could be friends.
I love it. I love it. And she, of course, didn't yell at you or hit you with a broom or anything. No, what happened?
She smiled and she's like, oh my, Kimberly, people wouldn't come to my door and introduce themselves since the back in the 1940s. Please come in. Can I offer you some tea? And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So I sat and I chatted with this cute little lady, and I ended up listing her home in our neighborhood. It was wonderful.
I love it. I love it. So you started out that way and you said, great, I'm going to live here. I'm going to meet the neighbors, meet the friends, then started door knocking. Talk to me about once you started to establish a long-term strategy for it. When did that kick in?
So you don't realize you're developing a long-term strategy, right? Your whole goal is to make friends and to get to know as many people as you can. You're trying to meet them. You want them to be in that network of people that you know. So if they know people, they can help you. So I think if you go out at it like you are really trying to be helpful and be a friend, the business will just follow. And that's what it seems like happened. So when I listed that house, I was able to put my sign in the yard, and then I got to do an open house, which let me knock on a few more doors, and I got to learn to meet those neighbors. And so when I'm doing the open house for those, I ring the doorbell again. Hi, I'm Kimberly Austin. I just wanted to let you know there's going to be a lot of traffic on the street. I'm going to be doing an open house today. But before we got started, I just wanted to see if you wanted to help me pick your next neighbor. I could do it, but I'd rather have you help me if you can.
So that's a great script. So I would like you to help me pick your new neighbor. What are they going to say? I hate you? No, they can't. I mean, they have to say something like, yeah, okay, how can I help? Right? Like that's okay. So
and perfect. If they say, how can I help? I will say, who do you know that you want to be your neighbor? You might not think of anybody right now, but if you do know somebody, now's your chance to help me pick your neighbor.
right. So always coming from value. I'm providing value to you. Okay, so gotcha. All right, so perfect. So then so it kind of, as you would say, it steamrolled or it snowballed, right? You're looking at it now. So how many doors do we cover now?
Right. So as I was doing that, I would go 10 to the right, 10 to the left. I would get the entire neighborhood across, 10 to the right, 10 to the left, and I would go back and forth. So I was hitting anywhere and talking to at least 50 people as I was doing the door knocking for the open houses. It's always nice to invite the neighbors. I would always put together an invitation, and it would be a "you're invited" with a picture of the house that was actually for sale. And underneath it, it would look like a child's invitation. Who, when, where, and at the bottom it says, now's your chance to help pick your next neighbor. Who do you want to live in the neighborhood?
And Kimberly, so one of the things we've been talking about is EDDM.
Yep.
Okay. So
Yep.
what does that mean, and how are you leveraging that amazing tool for you to do this at the highest level?
So EDDM stands for every door direct mail. And it is a vehicle that any realtor or any company can use to promote their business. You don't have to give them any addresses. As a matter of fact, they won't take them. You give them
and Kimberly, who's them? Who's them?
Thank you.
Yeah.
The people that you want to market to.
Gotcha.
It's usually a zip code. The United States Postal Service will give you areas where they actually drop off mail to, and it tells you how many households are in that area, which we call a farm. So you pick the farm area, and then you can actually toggle and pick the different houses that you want, and the post office will actually drop it off in their mailbox anytime you want to.
And the benefit
Very,
of
very
doing,
expensive to
yeah, I
do.
was just gonna say the benefit is it's very inexpensive. And so you were telling me the other day around 17 to 19 cents a piece. Is that right?
At that price, yeah, it's very.
17 to 19 cents a piece, everyone. So that is massive. So
That includes, Brendan, your printing and part of the mail. So depending on what you're putting out there and how big your mail is, will depend on the amount of money that you're going to get charged. So
gotcha.
when you're getting started, take a small piece, because again, people don't know who you are until they've seen you a lot of times. And
A
it's not a
lot.
lot of times in the same week, it's a lot of times every month, consistently every month.
Yep, and you're exactly right. Yeah, it's not necessarily the going super wide and going, I want to get 10,000 doors once a month. It would be better to have 4,000 doors 3 times a month, or 3,000 doors 3 times a month, because I try to explain to people, just like Geico commercials, right? Like,
Yes.
that silly little Geico, because you're like, man, you see that thing 1,000, or what's her name from Progressive, right? The
Yep.
Fed, or whatever her name is. Yeah. So it's the same thing. That's what we're trying to do, is win that mind share for that neighborhood. And we're trying to make sure that we're whenever they think of real estate, even though they might have a best friend in real estate, they're still going to go, man, that Kimberly though, she's all up in here. She must know every, so maybe we should at least talk to her. Cause you've gotten a lot of appointments like that, right? Where you weren't necessarily the number one choice. You were kind of the, well, we wanted to check with you, but we already have somebody in mind choice. And then you won them over with your amazing presentation, tenacity, and skill set. But you weren't always the first. So people think I do mail and everybody's going to love me. No.
No, as a matter of fact, it's kind of a love-hate relationship with the community. I've been doing it for so many years that people are like, all right, already stop sending me your mail. Or they'll say, you know what, Kimberly, your mail is so inspirational. I'm so glad you send out so much marketing that when I go to sell my house, I'm absolutely going to call you. Or people will say, take my name off of your mail list. And it's like, there's no mail list. It's
Right.
through the post office. So yeah, there is a love-hate relationship with it, but in all reality, my goal is to give information that is incredibly helpful to the community.
And I love that. And just for doing some simple math. So let's just take for a second here and do some baseline calculations. So if you had to say in 2020, total amount of homes you sold that you think in some form of fashion were from your farm, how many would you
Mhm.
say total?
So Brendan, I sold 83 houses last year. I believe 50 of them were in my farm
Okay,
area.
so 50 homes. So let's make sure everybody knows that. So 50. Now let's take the next number, which is obviously important, is how many doors are you mailing to on a monthly basis and how many times? So,
Absolutely. So if you're just getting started and you're thinking, gosh, I don't know if I could do this farm thing. I don't know if I could be consistent. Start small. Start with 500 to 1,000 homes and don't go any above and beyond that. Seriously, pick that number of homes and target that number of homes every single month. And that's actually how I got started. When I came back, I didn't have a lot of money to get started. My material that I sent out was on a white piece of paper that I printed through my own printer.
oh yeah.
I cut it with my own cutting board. And it didn't look the most professional, but it was very helpful of what was going on in our community. And what I did was I pulled all the stats of the homes that were selling in the neighborhood so that people could get an understanding of what their home could be worth when they go to list or sell their home. And of course, there's always a call to action, right? At the bottom of all of my mailings, if you're curious to know what your home is worth in today's market, please call me.
So with that, and that's very helpful. So looking at that, going back just a second. So for numbers, so how many doors, how many times a month?
So I started with 1,000 and then I started growing my business and then I started doing 2,000 and then I started doing 3,000. And then it got to be a little bit more expensive for me. It's like, oh my gosh, my budget is going way out of proportion. So now I'll do 3 to 4,000 at a time, and I will do it every other month so that I'm not blowing a ton of money in one month, but people are still getting that consistent mailing to their homes.
Right. But plus you branded over time though. So when it was like in the heyday of it, when you were earning that mind share, was it monthly? Was it more than once a month?
It was absolutely monthly. And then on top of it, when a home sold, I would send out um, information about how much the homes are selling for and what theirs might be worth. I would call people and say, hey, I just wanted to let you know that 123 Main Street sold down the street. And that is one of the record sales in our community. Would you be interested in getting something like that for your home? And then it just gives you that option to have that conversation. Again, I started knocking on the doors, which meant I got the phone numbers of these people, and then it gives me the option to have conversations with
So
them
now,
about
Kimberly, so now it's 3,000 doors every other month, but you don't only just do this. You do, pumpkins, flags, different things. I want to come back to that in a second. But so let's just talk about 3,000. So every other month, right? So 18,000 mailers are going out per year. Okay, as it
that is
stands now. And you were doing more before, but 18,000 right now at a cost of, let's just say 19 cents, right? So we're looking at
19 to 25 cents, depending on what material I'm sending out. So if I'm sending out a 4-page newsletter, it's going to be a lot different than a postcard.
love it. So 25 cents you think is safe or okay. So
That's probably
19,000 times 25 cents to be safe. So you're spending $4,750 a year on this delivery service to reach 19,000 touches. They have to touch it and throw it in the trash. 19,000 touches for $4,700, which is phenomenal. And if we look at that and we say, okay, 50 homes, let's just, average sales commission of, let's just be conservative, 12,000 and I know yours is way higher than that, right? That's $600,000, right? When we're looking at gross commission or just revenue for $5,000. Now, I'm not saying that's all you do, and I want to come back to this for a second because again, just working out the baseline numbers of what we're doing there. So return on investment is obviously very key if you are only just doing that one piece. So talk to us about the complements to your touch program that aren't just bulk EDDM mail. What does that look like?
fantastic. So the other thing that I do is I sponsor our they're the Stapleton MCA, the Master Community Association. They put on a bunch of different events. So they allow realtors and other businesses to bring monies to their community for the benefit of the community. So I stood up as one of the top sponsors, and that gave me the exposure to put my tents up. I get to put a 10 by 10 up and stand at a booth while they're hosting their events. Every Friday night, they have a movie in the park, and people bring their little ones or maybe have a picnic a romantic picnic in the park. And my tent is there, and I'm giving away swag. I buy frisbees and flashlights and backpacks. I
Yeah,
mean, whatever.
swag. Yeah, swag, right?
And
Swag.
one of my biggest swag success events were my beach balls. I bought a bunch of beach balls. I filled them up and I just hucked them out into the crowd. And people were going with my balls back and forth, kicking and playing with them. And then when I was in the neighborhood going to a listing, there would be my ball. So it was really, really fun. And so I think if you can make the most fun of what you're doing and truly try to help the community will know if you're just there to sell them or if you really are trying to partake in what is the best benefit for them. So
Yeah.
the other thing I did is I provided them not one, but 2 10 by 10 tents for the swim team. And so anytime there's a swim meet, there's my tent.
That are logoed, of course.
Of course. Yep.
Of course.
And
So I love it.
not
So yeah,
there.
so it's a I'm all into this community because I get the question all the time, Kimberly. So how much do you spend in it? Well, I spent 6 months on just listed cards, never got a darn thing. Well, no kidding there, goofball. Of course you're not. This is we're coming in and we're nesting, right? We're not only nesting, we're spreading,
Yeah.
right? We're going to spread through this community and we've got to hit all facets. And So how many different, because you know that, and then you're in probably several of them, but people don't realize in every community there's so many different things that are happening. There's mommy groups, daddy groups,
Mm.
sports, rec softball things, kickballs, this thing, that thing. And all you have to do, and not all, you got to show up,
You
right?
got to
You
show up,
got to
and you got
show
to,
up.
when you're on those Facebook, get into the group, um, partake, answer questions. The community has questions. Who is a good painter? Hey, Joe, I see that you're asking for a painter. Here are the top 3 painters that I have in my file. I'm also a real estate agent, so if you need anything else, whether it be an electrician or a plumber, please give me a call. I'd love to help you.
Right. Value, value, value all the time. Not what you can do for me, what can I do for you in the community? And in return, of course, they're going to reciprocate, right? And that's going to be the biggest thing. So excellent. So
I
looking
wanted to
at, mhm,
click on that
please,
too,
yeah.
Brenda, is if you can find a need, fill it.
Mm, yeah. And like you said, with the swim team, there was a need there, right? And
Yes.
and it's a win-win. They love you. People are going to see you. You're helping the community. That's amazing. So talk to me about what's the biggest success story you've had from the farm.
So I've actually had some great success stories. First of all, I get to know the community. That in itself is just really rewarding, right? I've seen little kids that have been born there and they're already going to high school. It's just amazing. The MCA hosts all these different events. They have an egg scramble. They have a pancake breakfast at the 4th of July. They have a beer fest. They have a winter welcome, and for many, many years, I've been sponsoring the Santa Claus. Who doesn't like Santa Claus? I
So
mean,
what do you mean? What do you mean by sponsor the Santa Claus? Like you pay a Santa Claus, put your logo on the back, have him run through the neighborhood?
I love that. No, so when you are sponsoring for these events, you actually get to have your tent there. What I decided is I was going to hire a Santa Claus, bring him to the winter welcome, put my tent there so that kids could get their pictures, and the community lines up to see our dear old guy in the red suit, right? And instead of saying, hey, you got to pay this amount of money for your Santa Claus picture with your cute kid, hey, come sit with Santa. I've got the photographer all lined up. Give me your name, your phone number, your email. I'm going to get these professionally printed, and just let me know when you're going to be home and I'll personally drop them off. It is time
Powerful, powerful.
consuming. If you're there with 280 people that saw Santa Claus that night, you get to make 280 pop buys to give them the most incredible pictures that they've ever wanted in their homes, and that's pictures of their kids.
Absolutely. Yeah. Memorabilia, right? That's the thing that sticks. And this year though, with COVID, you made the decision, I remember us talking about this, to not do that, correct?
It crushed me.
Crushed you.
It
Yeah.
crushed me.
Because it was such
It's
a big,
a
I
lot
mean,
of
you said you on average were doing 3 or 4 deals from it a year. I mean,
yeah.
that's like 30 grand going out the door. I mean, or more, obviously even more. But you also have to do, the right things for the right times. Right. And you knew it wasn't the
Exactly.
right move. You did the responsible thing. You said, look, I'm not going to go that route. So, all right. So those are huge success stories. So let's flip it on its head, because this was coming. So let's talk about, what did you learn from some things that didn't maybe go so well? So
Sure.
hopefully myself and others don't have to do it.
So I will say, I have been delivering flags every 4th of July.
United,
Everybody
yeah,
loves
American
America.
flags.
Everybody loves American flags. So I bought, I don't know, 100, and I delivered them to my street. And what happened was people in the community were outraged that I didn't get them on their streets. Why did we only put them on this one street? Well, because I lived on it. And I just thought, if the community wants these flags, well, then I'll just buy more next year. It's not a big deal. And for all the people that complained on social media, I just asked them where they lived and I personally delivered them a flag. And so, you
And
just
when you
want to
say
make sure
delivered originally, did you just stick them in the yard?
that
And
it was so
did
cool.
did they say, were they logoed anywhere? Not on the flag, of course, obviously, but on the stick, or was your phone number on them? Or because otherwise
I
I'm just
got a
like, hey, some random flag out there.
So I got this really long, um, uncut paper, which was sticky. And I put my name, my phone number, my email, and it said Happy 4th of July. And I had them all printed over at Staples, and they physically cut them for me. So when the flags came in, I stripped them off, put them on the flag post, and then I walked the houses and I stuck them at the curb, and they were 2-foot flags. And so it just looked very patriotic that year. So the following year, I thought, okay, I did 100. I think I'll do 1,500, and I'll just walk down the avenues. Well, what do you think happened when you just go down the avenues? People are like, why didn't you hit the street? So people were complaining to the MCA saying, well, you just delivered them to the avenue. And they're like, we didn't deliver them. Kimberly Austin delivered them. And so my name started going out there, and I'm not sure it was in the most positive way. So I decided to do 6,000 last year. I did 2 years ago, 6,000, and everybody loved them. They loved them. I got 2 or 3 listings from them. And then last year we had COVID, and we had some unfortunate things with BLM and just some crazy stuff going on in the United States. And there was a big controversy about, we hope she doesn't trash our neighborhood with these flags. I was just like, what do I do with this?
Yeah,
So
the
I actually
the flag sensitivity was at its utmost high at that time.
Yeah, I did call the MCA and said, give me some direction. What do you think I should do? They said, there's such a big hoo-ha about having flags, not having flags. Why don't we just put them down Martin Luther King and some of the bigger avenues? That way we still have a flair of patriotism. And for those people who don't want them, then you're not putting them in their yards. We're just doing it for the community. And I'm not kidding you, Brendan, people defaced our flags.
Yeah, no, I remember you telling me this story, and I was so disgusted by it. And again, but yeah, again, lessons learned here is even with that, are we going to do flags this year?
I think I'm going to be a lot more sensitive to hearing what the outcry is of the pulse in the economy.
Right.
If people are still up in arms about a certain something, I don't want to go out and try to spread good cheer.
Right. Because some of those messages were like, F you, lady, hope you die, like nasty. I mean, I'm talking really like stuff that scares you, right? And so yeah, so when I talk about those stories, it's not always just beautiful, like, yeah, I drop off mailers and people love me and it's great. No, it's we all learn. There's things that, again, you would have never predicted that. You're like, look, I'm trying to help people get free flags, and it's patriotic, and all, all looking at all that, and people are freaking out. There's nothing you can do there. So except learn, move on, adapt, and adjust.
What people don't realize is it was sweat equity, right? Like, it wasn't like I was doing it just to get my name out there. Yes, that's part of it, but more importantly, it was really to just be very patriotic.
Yeah,
and
you
to
took pride in it.
yeah, raise that hand of salute to the people that have served in our country. I know you have.
Right.
And so thank you for that. And
No,
I
absolutely.
just love here.
Well, the other real underlying story, Kimberly, and this is the one that I think I want to make sure people understand, is how, when you just talked us through several of those steps, right? I had to order the flags, go to Staples, cut it, do this, wrap it, do that. I mean, this isn't for the faint of heart, right? Like this took you probably a day, 2 days, 5 days, a long time. I remember you telling me, you were like, it's no joke. Setting up Santa, it sounds like it should be easy. It's still no joke, especially the first time, because you have to learn the shortcuts. But most people go, oh, that's a lot of work, direct mail. Everybody asks me this question all the time. And I think this is the beautiful part here is with you sending 3,000 that are maybe not personal, right? You're not sending out so much personal. You are still sending out or doing things that provide a personal connection, right? And those things that provide the personal connection, they take time. Anything worth doing takes time. So how long do you think it took to do 6,000 flags from start to finish, process, order, all of that? What are we looking at in hours?
So ordering the flags were $2 each. And so if you do $2 each at 6,000 flags, there's 12 grand. On top of it, I had to pay administrative people to help me get
Deliver.
those onto the posts.
Mhm.
And then I had to walk 6,000 houses. That was painful. There were five of us, me, my two 18-year-old kids, my 14-year-old, an assistant. We were all out putting flags. And I'll tell you, there were people that were just the loves of our community. Oh, thank you for putting those out. Can I have an extra one? I love that. It was really awesome. And
That's
at the
amazing.
end of the day, it does give you a good feeling to do something for the community, even though
Well,
there's a
well,
handful of people
well,
that.
the other underlying story there too is you've got it. This is a family affair, right? Make the kiddos work, the husband work, the wife work, the cousins work. It is slave labor all the time. Family, you are out there and you're making this happen. Oh, you like that nice trip we went on? You're dropping off flags, right? Like that. That's what I'm talking about, right? Oh, you like the boat
I'm
we have? Yeah, you're dropping off flags.
going to pull up for you something that I've showed you before,
Yeah,
but
I
this
love
is a
this.
map of all the homes that I've sold in our community, and it gives reasons why people should call me, right? When you see all those little bubbles, the red are the ones that I listed and sold. The blue are where I've helped people buy. And so if you start racking up different home sales in a specific neighborhood, you want the people who live there to know that you are an expert in that community.
Yeah, and so guys, pay attention and gals. Kimberly Austin pro tip: you get a map, right, and you drop pins over time of where you've sold homes in that area, right, and then as you start to show that to people, they're going to start to collect over time. Think how powerful that is on a listing presentation to go, yeah, I don't know who else you're meeting with, but here's the homes that I've sold here. Right. And they can
Absolutely.
barely even, there's almost any, soon there won't even be any green left on that map, right? Like it's getting to the point that it's getting pretty filled up. That was the one thing I thought was fascinating. What's that?
On top of that, when I do my mailers, I'm doing a specific zip code. And so I will do a flyer that says what's going on in the zip code. And then it has
Mm.
information about it. It shows what we are selling as far as what's going on, keeping people in the know. And then
And
doing a nice little write up at the end, giving them something about who I am so that people can understand who I am as a professional in our community.
and it's a beautiful piece. And are you doing that custom yourself or is that outsourced to a company?
Canva.
Canva. So everyone, yeah, Canva. And again, does it take time to make?
Yes. Very
Yes,
time consuming.
yes. Very time consuming, but value is. If again, I talk about this all the time, and nothing against people that send out boomerang cards or basic cards. The more basic you send, the more standard that anyone can do. If you can click it in one button and order it, then so can everyone else. So does anyone
Yes.
care? So it's got to take some time. It's supposed to be difficult to make 600. I mean, it was more than that, $700,000 from 50 closed home sales. I'm just using low numbers to always stay conservative, right? $700,000 off of 50 closed sales. I mean, I would hope you would take some time to do some Canva and do some things and walk 1,000 homes times six, children and make them do it and all these things. That's the difference when people ask me all the time, Kimberly, why am I not having the success that I wish I was having? It's like, because you weren't Kimberly Austin staying up till midnight, 1 in the morning, making silly or not silly, making stinking flagpoles at 1 in the morning. You weren't the
And
one
it
that
was
was
hard.
doing it. Was
It was,
hard. It is hard,
and then
right?
if you think about July 4th, every July 4th, it's got to be 100 degrees out. I mean, it's
Whew,
always hot. So
hot.
we get up at 3:45 in the morning and we start putting our flags out so that we're not like dying from the heat. And one lady called me and said, Kimberly, I don't need to sell my house, but I just want to let you know my little 5-year-old daughter thought that the flag fairy came and landed in our community.
Oh, see, that's it though, right? Like that lady will remember that, and then when she talks to somebody and she tells that story, she's gonna be like, "Oh, we thought the flag fairy came, and that those flags that Kimberly Austin dropped off. Oh my gosh, Kimberly Austin. Who's Kimberly Austin? Oh, she's my realtor. Oh, your realtor doesn't drop off flags? No, she doesn't do anything. In fact, she sends me these boomerang cards for $5 off a bloomin' onion at Outback Steakhouse. That's the difference. That's the
Yeah.
difference, and that's why I love what you do, and I think it's, people could learn so much from that. So a couple of other things that I wanna make sure I had a lot of questions with you coming on. Um,
Backing up on that, I wanna just piggyback on it. So when that lady calls me and tells me something about her lovely daughter, the next step is to send a thank you note, not just to the mom, but to the daughter,
mm.
because you wanna make sure that you're showing value and appreciation for their recognition.
Love it. Yep. Yep. The art of just the simple kind. Again, everything you said today has been value, 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 thoughtful, thoughtful, thoughtful. Not what can Stapleton or Central Park, now that they call it, can do for me. What can I do for them? And that's hard, because a lot of people are just going, well, like you said, how do I start? And what's, how much is it going to cost me? And they're so in their head about what they're going to get from it, and that's that you got to flip it. You got to flip it. So
As a
so that's
matter of
perfect.
fact, I wanted to just make one more point about that, Brendan. It was about 2 years ago, I was at an open house and a gentleman came in and I said, hi, welcome to the open house. Did the nice little touches about having him come in. And at the end of the time when he walked out, I said, so can I write the offer for you? And he said, no, Kimberly, we're looking for something a little more modern and we are working with a realtor. I said, not a problem at all. Tell me what you're looking for. Even though he told me he had a realtor, tell me what you're looking for. Tell me who your realtor is. And I will call your realtor and tell her what I've got coming on. And by the way, you'll probably want to buy an Infinity home. It's a little more modern, much more contemporary, and more so in your price point. So I knew the neighborhood, I knew the product, and I told him I was going to call his realtor. He ended up buying that Infinity home. And 2 years later, last week, he called me to list it.
There you go. And that's actually leading into my next question, which is, one of the things that people don't understand either is how much about the product in that neighborhood. And I think it was fascinating when you started rattling off, this model, that model, this builder, that builder. I was like, wow. I don't know if there's anyone else out there that I actually know, unless they actually built the community, that probably knows more. So basically, I could go in Central Park and I could go look at a house and I could be like, oh, you're on what's up, whatever street, and you could literally be like, oh, are you in an XYZ model? Or so
Are
talk to
you
me
in a
through
John?
that.
Oh, you're on both sides in Emporia. Are you on the west side or on the east side? I'm on the east side. Perfect. You got to be in a John Lang. How did you know that? Well, I know the community really well. As a matter of fact, you're right by the rec center. So you're in a really good location. And people just are like, she already knows my house. She knows the neighborhood. She knows the builder. And if she knows the builder, she probably has a buyer that wants this type of home.
There you go. There you go. But so how, if I have lived in my community for 3 years, let's say, and not 20, how can I go out and learn that info? I know you did a lot of previewing of property, right? Like
Yeah.
how do you learn the product if you just haven't been there 20 years?
So that's a really good question. So if you're in a newer community, it could be in a place like Stapleton, it might be in Highlands Ranch. If you're in a specific location that has newer builds, if you go into the history, it'll tell you who the builder is.
There you
I
go.
know the houses by looking at them. So I could look at a house and say, that's a KB, that's a Wonderland, that's a John Lang, that's an Infinity. I can go on and on about the entire community of what houses are where. So if somebody says they're going to be selling their Infinity home, I said the demographic of your buyer is going to probably be somebody that's in a KB, possibly a McStain. They're going to be working here. And the people are just like, wait, wow.
You're the
So
house
you can,
whisperer.
uh-huh.
The house whisperer. I love it. No, but again, it's a testament to, that's such again, a Kimberly Austin pro tip is just looking at that and going, you can search the builder, you can kind of things this, and if you drop that in the conversation, it's going to be so powerful, instead of going, oh yeah, this is a nice house. Oh, good. You want to be the expert, even if you might not be the expert yet. But there's so many ways to secretly be the expert, because even ahead of time, you could go and figure out where the rec center is. I love when I go by your office, it's like a war room and there's maps, right? You've got maps and pins and things, because if you're staring at an area you're farming, you're going to start by almost osmosis, seeing the right streets name. Oh, that's that name. Okay. So they're on 4, 5, 6, 7 is on that street versus blah, 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 blah. That way it builds rapport. People want to work with someone that they can trust. And to build trust, you have to know that they need to know that you know more than they do.
That's
Right?
exactly right.
That's how you become an expert. You don't go to the doctor and be like, "Hey, doctor, so yeah, my stomach hurts. I think I'm going to take some pills. What do you think?" No, right? You go, "Hey, he's the expert," and you ask him. And if he was like, "Well, I don't know. What do you think?" You're going to have a problem, right? Like that's going to be a problem. So that was such a big one that I wanted to dive into. So
And it's also
so
important to know that too, Brendan, because if I'm running comparables and I've got a home that's about 2,400 square feet, and I've got a home that has been built by a specific builder, and there's a custom home builder that has that same square footage, I don't want to look silly by saying the house is worth less when it should be worth more, or flipped.
Gotcha. Exactly. Again, yeah, it's to be safe and come from value and make sure that we're protecting in that way. So then looking at the entire, the question I had, what is the message that is on? We saw the beautiful newsletter. What's the message that's on the EDDM, the courier mail thing? What has worked and what hasn't worked? Did you find over time? Are you sending updates on just listed, just sold? Are you sending messages that says sell your home or I'll buy it? What's the messaging that's going out to the community?
I always want to give the community valuable information. When I'm saying I just sold this or I'm this great, people are like, yeah, stand in line. There's a ton of people that are that great and that have sold houses. So what? They don't care about how great I am or how many sales I've made. They don't. They care about what their house is worth and how can I help them protect their best investment. And so how can I communicate that to them? How can I help them with that type of information? When Stapleton was opening the road from Denver to Aurora, some people were a little worried about that. And
Absolutely.
so giving them information on that before it actually happened was very helpful for some folks. It turned out to be a great thing because Stanley Market became into its inception, and a lot of the community appreciates having that great area where they can shop and eat. It's been awesome.
So if not every piece has been information based. So something about the community, the recreation,
Market statistics.
market
Um,
statistics. So
mhm.
you're never once being like, look at me, look at me, look at me. It's
I started that way, and
of
I
course.
realized, I realized, oh, they don't want my stuff. So if I don't have anything of market value that I have, I do send out a just sold or a just listed, but I always make sure that there's a point of information on that.
Gotcha.
Sold for the highest price per square foot. Curious to know what your home could be worth in today's market.
Love it.
They'll be like, what does that mean? Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So message matters, then building the community connection matters, learning the product matters. And now the last piece that I want to get into, and is I always try to save some time for everyone out there, is to us about the tech you're using. So what CRM are you using? We just heard you say Canva. What are you using as far as what's the tech that makes Kimberly Austin's machine work right now?
Well, it has been a trial and error, and I'll tell you, I've hit some bumps along the road. I've actually chatted with you about that. And it's really challenging if you are not organized. If you have all of your information in a spreadsheet, you're not going to know who to talk to, or when you talk to them, or who's in their family. And for many years, I used one CRM, and it just wasn't getting the value of the reach back. When you and I started chatting and working together, he said, Kimberly, you've got to get a stronger vehicle for that information. It's invaluable. And I'm like, gosh, you're kind of right. Maybe I should look into that. So I ended up
You
going,
had so much data. I was like, if you don't do it, I'm going to do it for you. Cause I was like, oh my gosh, you're lighting money on fire with the amount of data you had at your fingertips.
it is true. And so I'm very grateful to you and the information you helped me with. I did go with Boomtown and I have not looked back. I am so incredibly grateful for the advice of, here's the things you could think about. Boomtown was it for me. And I'm able to tag who's in a Wonderland, who's in a Infinity, who's in a Standard Pacific. Because guess what? When I sell that Wonderland, who am I going to market it to?
Yep.
Other Wonderland homes.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
Those Wonderland people
Leveraging,
don't care. Yes.
yeah, leveraging the data.
Yep.
People still don't get it, Kimberly, that we're even everything we've talked about all day today, every single piece of it was data, data, data in a different way. We're like, again, if you're putting into your CRM, she thought that I was the flag fairy. Then the next time she calls that, if she has that woman's phone number, next time she calls her and she'll be like, hey, it's Kimberly, the flag fairy. How you doing? Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. You can't do that in your head. There's no way you're going to
Yep.
remember that when you're marketing to 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, however many people. It's impossible. That's where that CRM becomes that value. Okay, so we've got Canva, we've got Boomtown. Talk to me about the other kind of game changer you stepped into last year as far as processing.
So figuring out where the leads are coming from. Like, did I meet this person at an open house? Did they call me off the sign? Did they call me from my social media? I'm getting leads just coming, coming, coming. And it's like, wait a minute, where are you? Let me find out. No, putting it in that CRM, tagging them, and making sure that it is on a lead follow-up program or plan. And so we are making sure that we're doing a 33-step touch and making sure that we're talking to them at least 4 times a year, sending them information in the mail, and just making sure that I have everything that I need to make sure that when that person calls in, I know how to help them.
I absolutely love it. And talking about that, right? One of the things that speaking about leads and how much you have actually coming is you're looking for help right now. And you had talked to me a little bit earlier. So talk to the audience about who are you looking for, what open opportunities that you have available right now. Who if I'm struggling to produce leads, or I want to have a farm-based business, or I want to learn from the best in the biz. What are you looking for, and how can people connect with you?
God bless you. I'm telling you, it is hard because as you're a one-man band and you're doing your own real estate, it's easy to get this stuff in a database, and it gets a little more challenging as you're making all of these different marketing pieces. But right now, I am, as I said, I sold over 80 homes last year. It's a little more challenging to do it by yourself. You have to rely on top professionals. We want to grow a team that is delivering exceptional first-class real estate services. That means we know if you're on 29th and Emporia, you're in a John Lang or a KB, depending on what side of the street you are. You want to know who the people are in your community. So I'm looking for people that are dedicated to the industry, who want to deliver exceptional service. And right now I'm looking to grow my administrative staff, specifically a transaction coordinator, and also a few buyer's agents or showing agents if a salary is important. So those are the types of professionals I'm currently looking to grow. I think the opportunity is endless. Right now I've got 2 people that are in the administrative capacity. I've got 1 buyer agent, and we have way more buyers than we have time. And so if you're struggling to get things rolling and you want to learn how to do things without making too many mistakes, because I've already made the mistakes, I would love to at least chat with you and see how we could partner.
I love it. And Kimberly, so when people hear that word transaction coordinator, I want to make sure everybody's clear on that. I know because I with owning a brokerage and different things, I see how many transactions people are doing. Sometimes it's okay to take a step back from agent to TC to learn the business the right way. I was an assistant for a year and a half. I still think without having that, it would have been it would have been so hard for me not to do it. So transaction coordinator, you're going to learn this business. You're going to be around the best. Maybe you'll want to stay and do that for a long time and work your way through the operational team and become a general manager, or run the entire show someday. Or maybe you'll learn and you'll decide, hey, you and Kimberly will talk and you'll go, a couple of years from now, hey, I really want to go into sales again. And there's so many different doors, but don't think that just because you're struggling as an agent doesn't mean that you can't learn and have a salary and pay, if you have, of course, talent and skills that Kimberly needs for you to join. And then if you're an agent and you're out there and you're hearing this right now and you're going, She's got a machine. A lot of teams out there go, I got leads. They don't have leads. They're buying leads, right? They're trying to find all these things. She has built a machine over 20 years that you can stake your name on, knowing I'm going to get opportunities if I'm not a goofball because of this machine that she's built. And she's going to
So
teach me every step. And we didn't even get into talking about how amazing she is on listing presentations. We ran out of time. We'll have you back again because one of your favorite stories I love is just the tenacity in these listing presentations, because you just know how much value you bring. And it's like, if you're not listening with me, I'm not leaving. And I'm not saying it's that aggressive, but it's semi that aggressive, which is how I was and how I believe you should be. But for everyone out there, think about that. Showing assistant, you get paid to open doors
yeah,
and see beautiful homes in a wonderful community. You just heard how nice the community is. And she obviously doesn't only work that area. She works every area. I mean, she sells the entire Front Range area. So where do I reach out and connect with you, Kimberly? How do I get in touch if I'd like to apply, if I know somebody that might be interested from a different industry? Because, right, we don't care if they're a bartender, a candlestick maker, they work at the mall, they're a bank teller. This is an opportunity to become a master at real estate. Where do I apply if I'm interested?
absolutely. Thank you for asking about that, Brendan. So just to kind of piggyback on some of the things you were saying, my current buyer's agent was in a similar situation. He was an agent. He was doing well, and then he had a dry spell of 6 months, and to keep the bills going, it was a little challenging for him. And when he came to me, he said, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And so if you don't know what you're doing, it's okay. I didn't know what I was doing a lot of years ago. And just to go through the experience and actually start growing people, it's very exciting. And we want to make sure that you're challenged and growing professionally. So yeah, reach out to me. My name is Kimberly Austin, and I'm at Kimberly at Another Just Sold.
Kimberly
.com.
at Another Just Sold. We'll have it below in the description. We'll have it everywhere. Everyone will be able to release it. We're going live on Facebook now. Obviously, this will go out to our entire Apple Music and Spotify and all of the different places where you listen to your podcast. But so, Kimberly, anything else you would like to share with anyone before we wrap this up? Anything else that we can provide service to you? Thank you for, there was so many nuggets in there that it was unbelievable. Is there anything else that you want to mention?
I do want to mention how amazing the information you provide to your people. Brendan, I listen to your podcast all the time. And I think that if they're not listening to this, they're missing out on those little bitty nuggets. Even today, after 20 years, I'm capturing nuggets from other people that you have on the podcast. And I think that you should always want to continue to increase your knowledge in this business so you could provide exceptional real estate services to your clients.
So kind. Well, I appreciate that. We love having you on. We're going to have you back because I'm going to do a whole episode of just talking about listing presentation dominance. And I just can't wait to go into that subject. So again, everyone, Kimberly Austin, the one and only, reach out to her if you're interested in becoming a professional in this industry, or if you're a buyer or seller out there looking for one of the best in the business to represent you in any transaction, connect with her. Obviously, her whole entire purpose is value and bringing you the best experience. Kimberly, cannot thank you enough. So for everyone, hope this was of value to you. I know it was. And as always, I wish you great success.